Boris Johnson warns Western allies not to backslide on Russia sanctions.
Here's a summary of the article.
Instead, he called for the economic measures against the Kremlin to be ratcheted up and for more military support to be provided to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's government. He stressed that Mr. Johnson had been first out the door to agree to deliver military support to Ukraine, with thousands of missiles including anti-tank weapons having been sent. Mr. Johnson replied, "It's right that we should double down on military, defensive support in the way that we are. We will also make sure that there is no backsliding on sanctions by any of our friends and partners around the world. In fact, we need to ratchet up the economic pressure on Vladimir Putin, and it's certainly inconceivable that any sanctions could be taken off simply because there is ceasefire." Just days ago, Mr. Zelensky hailed Britain for being definitely on our side and voiced frustration at some countries in the West, including Germany and France, for not taking a tougher stance against Mr. Putin. He raised concerns that Germany was trying to take a more balanced approach to Russia due to its deeper economic ties with Moscow, and claimed France was against supplying tanks to Ukraine because they are afraid of Russia.
This post received a score of 42,000, with an upvote ratio of 92%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Ukraine will need a lot of reparation and restitution, and Russia needs to be accountable.
Seized assets should be getting sold, and the funds put in a Ukraine rebuild fund.
It's a great sentiment, and I'm 100% for it. But who exactly would be in the market to buy custom, $100 million, second-hand yachts? Police auction style. ILL start at $50.
You are not going to want to pay to maintain the thing. Owning a fishing boat is expensive enough, I can't imagine the monthly costs for one of those things.
Well, the only ones who could legitimately win the auction will have enough money to care for it for at least a few years. Even at a heavy discount, a $100 million yacht would get at least 25% at auction. Plus, if the rich idiot can't actually afford it and they lose their bankroll over it, who cares?
You could buy a few of them and quickly repurpose them to basically be floating high-end cruise ships, but with 10 or so couples, private chef, no kids, ports are chosen by the group. My wife and I looked at something like this. It was a Caribbean sailboat IIRC. It was around $10 to $20 K a week, and there would be a few other couples with you.
Fuck it. Turn M into floating homeless shelters.
If you could dry dock them, maybe coat them in something and bury them so deck was on the ground, strip the mechanical and engine, have a soup kitchen complete with 5-star kitchen, disco, movie theater, sex dungeon, and I am sure another dungeon for torturing dissidents.
Hold up. A disco? Really? Is it just me, or is referring to big political names with Mr. or Mrs. feel off? Not even in a "fuck Putin" kinda way. Just that for these massive national leaders, something as run-of-the-mill as Mr. is bizarre.
Possibly because, if you're American, you're used to hearing, President, so-and-so, Senator, that other guy, Representative, chump tarts etc. The linked article is British, and we refer to our elected politicians a little differently. In British politics we tend not to conflate the role with the person. It's never Prime Minister Johnson, it's Mr. Johnson, or the Prime Minister, or very occasionally, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson. I'd love to tell you that this is some great gesture of democracy, but it's probably more that part of our government already has lots of silly titles, and the people who sit in the House of Commons are supposed to be commoners.
It's not so much the title thing. I think American media tends to just give their full name and title once at the top and only use last names after that, no Mr., Mrs.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.